If you're a man over 50 and you still masturbate, this may not be what you expected to hear from a doctor. It might even make you shift in your seat. But give me a moment, because what I'm about to say isn't coming from a headline or a textbook. It's coming from over 40 years of sitting across from real men, men just like you, who walked into my clinic thinking they were doing just fine until something quietly changed. They weren't broken, they weren't weak, but something had slipped. A little spark of connection, a sense of control. That inner confidence that once came naturally had started to fade. And too often, the root of that change, a very private habit, one no one ever really taught us how to handle as we get older. I'm Dr. Jonathan Prescott. I've worked with thousands of men in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and yes, even 80s. Strong, capable, intelligent men. Men who built businesses, raised families, served communities, but who still sat across from me and asked quietly, "Doc, what's happening to me?" Let's be honest, masturbation is natural, it's normal, it can even be healthy. But after 50, it becomes something else entirely, because your body isn't the same, your hormones aren't the same, and most importantly, your needs aren't the same. In this video, I'm going to share 7 critical truths every man over 50 needs to know about self-pleasure, aging, and masculinity. Not to shame you, not to scare you, but to give you back the clarity, power, and dignity you deserve. Because I believe that sexual health is not just physical, it's emotional, relational, and deeply human. And here's the paradox. This one private behavior can either heal you or slowly hollow you out. The difference is in how and why you do it. So if you've ever asked yourself, why don't I feel the same? Why am I so tired afterward? Why does it take more and more just to feel less and less? Then stay with me. What you're about to hear might just change how you see your body, your energy, and your manhood for the better.
1. The truth about your body after 60. It's not failure, it's physiology. And once you understand it, you stop blaming yourself and start caring for yourself differently. Let's get one thing straight. Your body isn't betraying you, it's evolving. And the moment you understand what's happening inside, that frustration, shame, or confusion you've been carrying, it starts to lift. I can't tell you how many men, strong, capable men in their 60s and 70s, have looked me in the eye and said, "Doc, is this normal? Am I losing my edge?" My answer is always the same. Yes, it's normal, but that doesn't mean you have to surrender to it. After 60, your body rewrites the rules. Testosterone, the key male hormone, doesn't fall off a cliff. It declines gradually, like a dimmer switch. One day you feel flat, your drive is quieter, your mornings are slower. And no, it's not a moral failing, it's just biology. But here's the part nobody tells you. Your erections, sensitivity, and sexual drive, they're not just about hormones. They depend on blood flow, nerve health, muscle tone, and yes, your emotional state too. The tissue inside the penis is delicate. Think of it like a fine instrument. It needs regular, healthy use to stay functional. Just like you stretch your joints or walk to keep your heart healthy, that area also needs oxygen, circulation, and care. Now, here's something most men never hear from a doctor. Masturbation, when done mindfully, can be helpful. It supports blood flow, preserves nerve function, and keeps the system alive. It's not shameful, it's maintenance. But most men don't treat it that way. They either avoid it altogether or rush through it like they did at 30. They don't realize that what once worked may now feel off. That's not failure, that's a body adapting. And when men don't understand that, they either push harder or pull away, and both routes can quietly do damage. So if you've noticed that it takes longer, feels duller, or doesn't satisfy the way it used to be, it's not in your head. It's in your hormones, circulation, and nervous system, and it can absolutely be addressed. Because once you understand these changes, you can stop fighting your body and start working with it. This isn't about giving anything up. It's about reclaiming what works differently, wisely, and with care. In the next section, we'll explore what happens when a private habit that once served you begins to quietly work against you. And trust me, it's more common and more fixable than you think.
2. When a healthy habit becomes a hidden risk. It's not the act itself. It's the absence of awareness that turns routine into risk. Let me share something I've seen more times than I can count. A man, calm, maybe a little hesitant, sits across from me and says, "Doc, I thought I was doing something good for myself, so why do I feel tired, disconnected, and somehow less like myself?" He's not talking about alcohol, not painkillers. He's talking about something far more common, masturbation. Let me be clear, this isn't an attack on pleasure. In fact, self-pleasure can be healthy. It supports circulation, balances hormones, and soothes the nervous system. But here's the quiet shift. When a good habit becomes automatic, unconscious, or emotionally driven, it can quietly turn against you. Many men I work with fall into a pattern. It's not extreme, it's not addiction. It's just routine, a default escape. They do it out of boredom or tension, or just because the day felt off. And over time, something changes. They don't feel better afterward. They feel drained, numb, distant, but they can't quite explain why. Here's what I tell them. When masturbation becomes reflex instead of choice, it stops being restorative. It becomes a shortcut, away from connection, away from discomfort, away from yourself. I've had men tell me they can't sleep without it, can't focus, can't relax. But over time, it becomes less about desire and more about avoiding something else. And that's where the risk begins. Because the more your brain reaches for quick-release pleasure, the less it looks for the real things: conversation, movement, intimacy, emotional renewal. And that's how your world quietly shrinks. You stop reaching out, you stop reaching in, and what once felt like harmless routine becomes a quiet wall between you and the life you used to feel alive in. But here's the truth. This isn't shameful, it's human, and it's changeable. Because once you recognize the pattern, you can reclaim the power you didn't even realize you'd lost. And when you do, something surprising happens. The energy, the desire, even the emotional clarity, they start to return. Up next, we'll talk about what's happening beneath the surface, the physical toll most men ignore until it becomes a real problem.
3. The hidden physical consequences most men ignore. Let me be honest, this is the part most men never see coming. By the time they walk into my office, they're not complaining about desire or performance. They just say, "Doc, I don't feel the same. The spark's gone, and I don't know why." And they say it with frustration, like it's their fault. But it's not. Most men were never told that what they thought was helping them might be slowly hurting them, physically, not just emotionally. Here's how. When masturbation becomes too frequent, rushed, or intense, it can begin to wear down the very systems it's meant to support. Take your nerve endings, especially in the penis. They're extremely sensitive, like the strings of a fine instrument. But when overstimulated, especially with pressure or speed, they start to dull. Like blasting music every day, eventually you stop hearing the subtle notes. You may not notice it first, But then arousal takes longer, staying firm gets harder, and climax feels flat. Then there's your smooth muscle tissue inside the erectile chambers. This tissue is what traps blood and sustains firmness. But if it's overused without recovery or lacks proper oxygenation, it weakens. And when that happens, erections suffer, and confidence goes with them. I've seen men pull away from intimacy, not because they don't want it, but because they're afraid they can't deliver. And that fear builds walls faster than any symptom. Now let's talk about something almost no one thinks about: your pelvic floor. It's the muscular foundation under your core, supporting your bladder, bowels, and yes, sexual function. But if you're always in one posture, sitting, hunched, tense, it weakens. Over time, this can affect bladder control, performance, even create discomfort. And here's the hard truth: it doesn't happen all at once. It's gradual. Everything is connected: nerves, blood flow, muscle tone. And when they start to slip, your emotional state follows. You begin to feel distant from your body. You stop trusting it. You withdraw. But let me be clear. These changes are not permanent. They're not failure. They're your body's way of saying, I need something different now. And once you shift from automatic to mindful use, healing begins. In the next part, we'll leave the body for a moment and turn to something even more powerful: your emotional well-being. Because often what feels like lack of desire is really unspoken emotional fatigue. 4. The emotional toll. Why you might feel empty afterward. You're not broken. You're bypassing something deeper. And the silence you feel after is your heart asking for more. Let me share something I've learned, not from books, but from decades of listening. Men don't always come to see me because of pain or performance. Sometimes they come because of a feeling they can't name. They sit down, pause, and quietly say, "Doc, I don't feel like myself anymore." Not depressed, not sick, just off. And after a few honest questions, the truth surfaces. It's not about sex. It's about emptiness. They've turned to masturbation not out of passion, but out of habit, out of stress, out of loneliness. Not because they want to, but because it numbs something they don't know how to face. And for a few minutes, sure, it brings relief. But then it fades, and the room feels quiet again. Too quiet. That silence you feel, that's not weakness. That's your mind saying, I need more than this. See, when pleasure becomes escape, you lose something important: connection to yourself. I've seen men slowly pull away from life, not because they don't care, but because they feel distant inside. They stop going out, skip church. They don't return calls. They lose interest in the very things that once made them feel alive, and they don't know why. The truth is, the very act they turned to for comfort was deepening their isolation, not on purpose, but over time. Now, if that sounds familiar, I want you to hear this. You are not broken, and you are not alone. That hollow feeling is not a defect. It's a signal. Your emotional system asking for something deeper. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to listen. Because once you do, you'll realize this isn't the end. It's the beginning of healing. In the next part, we'll look at the warning signs, the subtle physical and emotional cues your body's been sending. Once you recognize them, everything else starts to make sense. 5. The warning signs you can't ignore. Your body speaks before it breaks. You just have to know how to listen. Here's something I've learned after 4 decades of listening to men. Not just examining them, but really listening. The body whispers long before it screams. But most of us were never taught how to hear those whispers, only how to ignore them. Time and again, I've heard men in their 50s, 60s, and beyond ask, "Why do I feel tired afterward? Why does it take more to feel less? Why do I feel like I've lost control of something that once felt so natural?" These aren't odd questions. They're early warning signs. And the good news is, if you catch them early, you can shift course before deeper problems set in. Let's look at the most common signs I see in my practice. 1. You feel drained, not relaxed. Healthy pleasure should leave you grounded, calm, even a little energized. But if you finish feeling flat, tired, or emotionally off, it's a signal. That's your dopamine system crashing after overstimulation. Your body is saying, that was too much, too fast, too often. 2. You need more intensity just to feel something. What used to work doesn't. Now it takes more pressure, faster rhythm, or more explicit material to reach the same level. That's your brain becoming desensitized, rewired to chase intensity over connection. 3. You're not aroused, you're avoiding. You turn to it when you're bored, anxious, or stressed, not when you're truly feeling desire. This shift from choice to reflex is subtle, but over time it leaves you more disconnected, not more fulfilled. 4. Sensitivity is fading. It starts gradually, less feeling, more effort, flatter climax. This often isn't aging, it's nerve fatigue from overstimulation, and if unaddressed, it can become harder to reverse. 5. Confidence is slipping. You avoid intimacy, not because you don't want it, but because you're not sure your body will respond. That quiet hesitation creates a ripple effect into mood, energy, and relationships. It's not about performance, it's about trust in your own body. So what should you do? Start with awareness, not guilt. These signs aren't failures, they're feedback. They're your body saying, I need a different approach now. And the truth is, every one of these patterns is reversible. When you move from automatic to mindful, your body not just adapts, it often rebounds. In the next part, I'll walk you through how to reclaim the benefits of healthy pleasure without the physical and emotional cost. Because this isn't about shutting down your desire. It's about elevating it to match who you are now. 6. How to reclaim the benefits without the risks. You don't have to give it up. You just have to bring it back into balance with your body, your energy, and your dignity. Here's the good news most men never hear. You don't have to stop. You just have to reconnect with intention. This isn't about guilt, it's about clarity. The goal isn't to remove pleasure from your life. It's to restore it to a place of strength, not escape. I've seen men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s reclaim energy and confidence. Not through pills, but through small changes in how they relate to their bodies. Let's walk through them. 1. Slow down. Most men rush, but speed trains your body for less sensitivity, not more. Slow, gentle touch retrains your nervous system to feel again. Try using natural oil, like coconut or almond oil.
Gentle, warm, nourishing. It's not about finishing, it's about reconnecting. 2. Change your posture. Always sitting, hunched over? That's tension, not connection. Try lying flat, standing, or shifting position. This reduces pressure on your pelvic floor and creates a new, healthier body association. 3. Breathe. Really breathe. Shallow breath equals shallow experience. Try deep breathing. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. This calms your nerves and brings oxygen to the tissues that matter most. 4. Reconsider what you're watching. Porn, especially extreme content, trains your brain to expect fantasy over reality. Take a break. Let your imagination or memory lead the way. It may feel unfamiliar, but it helps you reawaken authentic arousal. 5. Let go of the outcome. You don't always need a finish line. Sometimes just being present in your body without pressure is enough. This isn't performance, it's practice for deeper connection. And here's what I've seen. When men stop rushing and start listening, their body responds. Not overnight, but reliably. You don't need to quit. You need to rebalance. You don't need to stop being sexual. You need to start being intentional. Up next, I'll walk you through a simple 7-day reset. No rules, just reconnection. It's time to remind yourself, your masculinity isn't fading, it's evolving, and it's never too late to meet it with clarity, respect, and strength.
7. Doctor's final message, speaking to the heart. Your masculinity isn't fading, it's maturing, and now you know how to protect it. If you've made it this far, thank you. Not just for listening, but for showing up. You didn't come here because you're broken. You came because something inside you said, something's not right. Maybe it was the silence after, the loss of drive, the distance from yourself. Let me say it clearly. You are not broken, you're not past your prime, and you're not alone. What you've been feeling is your body and your heart asking for attention. We've talked about how pleasure can become a substitute for connection, how physical changes like nerve fatigue and muscle loss can sneak in, how emotional distance can grow in silence, not with intention. But we've also talked about this. When you return to your body with awareness, it responds. You don't have to quit being sexual. You don't have to reject desire. You just need to bring it back into alignment with your breath, your values, your pace. This is a practice, a recalibration. It's about slowing down, breathing deeper, noticing patterns, and making new choices. Because real masculinity was never about intensity or performance. It's about presence. And presence doesn't decline with age, it deepens. So here's my invitation. Let this be the moment you stop hiding, stop blaming time, and start honoring who you are right now. Because when men do this work, something incredible happens. They feel stronger, sleep better, walk taller. Not because they changed everything, but because they started listening. If this message meant something to you, share it with a friend, a brother, a son, because healing starts with honesty. And sometimes all it takes is one man telling the truth and another listening. And if you're still here, still reading, still thinking, then you've already started. You've already taken the first step. And that,
to me, means everything. Dr. Jonathan Prescott.